For years, I thought that high cardio was the only way that I would see results, but I was left burnt out, totally fatigued, and wanting to quit. And in fact, I did quit. I completely swapped all of my high cardio workouts for walking, and I was fascinated by the results. Just a couple weeks, I'd be absolutely flabbergasted at the results that I saw. And I've studied exercise science for 20 years, so I had to find out why that was. And is walking enough for weight loss, for fat loss? Let's get into it. There are numerous, and I mean numerous studies showing that walking is the most effective way to reduce body mass, meaning weight and size. Anybody can do it, and it's easy to implement. It's easy to stay consistent. Walking also reduces cortisol. That is one of your stress hormones, and it's not a bad thing. Cortisol is actually a really good thing, but when it's chronically high, that's when it can become a bad thing. So walking reduces that cortisol. It improves insulin sensitivity, which is basically teaching your body how to utilize fat. Walking also supports metabolic health. It removes metabolic waste. It increases blood flow. So even think of walking as healing your body, as getting oxygen and nutrients to you all over your body. It becomes more efficient at picking up metabolic wastes, which then it eliminates that process, through your kidneys and, urination, things like that. I find it to be very beneficial in combination when I'm strength training because it removes that metabolic waste. It removes any inflammation that I might have that is created from strength training. That muscle movement transports lymph, a fluid that carries waste away from our tissues. Our lymphatic system relies on muscle movement like walking to make that happen. So walking makes your body really efficient at removing toxins and waste from the body. Also, so good for bone density. I'm 45. I didn't realize it's time to talk bone density, right? Anything that is weight bearing, and when I say weight bearing, that simply means that it requires your bones to support your weight. Anything weight bearing is good for bone density. So you can do walking with a weighted vest, you can do walking without a weighted vest. They are both going to help your bone density. But this is also why I prefer walking over, say, cycling on your bike, because it is weight bearing and supports that bone density. So what kind of walking aids in weight loss? Now, I dislike overcomplicating things because if we overcomplicate it, we're simply not going to do it. But we are very briefly going to talk about zone cardio. So zone cardio just basically breaks it into 5 different zones. It is based on your heart rate. For walking, when you're looking for weight loss or overall health, Zone 2 is where you want to land with walking, and you don't have to have a heart rate monitor. You don't have to do a calculation. Here's the best way to know that you are in Zone 2. You've got a steady pace between leisurely walking and, oh my goodness, I'm late to pick up my kids. So don't overthink it, but kind of stay in that zone, and you'll be in that Zone 2 cardio. Now, staying in Zone 2 is important for longevity and fat loss. It activates the PNS, or the parasympathetic nervous system. This is your part of your nervous system that activates that rest and digest state. So important. It kind of basically gets you out of that fight or flight response. Zone 2 cardio also has anti-inflammatory effects. For me, when I added walking and I didn't overcomplicate it, I literally left my house, walked for 20 minutes, and then walked back. This was a big contributor for me in getting off my autoimmune medication. I really battled inflammation a lot with my autoimmune disease. And once I added walking, all of the anti-inflammatory effects, that coupled with the other things, I think that was the biggest reason I was able to get off of my autoimmune meds. If you are strength training, when you do Zone 2 cardio, you are less likely to restart the recovery process. So it's really important that your body gets recovery. It's often lost in the shuffle, but recovery is just as important as the strength training and the walking. And when you do, say, a Zone 4 workout, say a HIIT kickbox, high intense, leaving some sweat all over the floor, that kind of workout can disrupt the recovery process. So walking, I found, is a better form of cardio when you're trying to get into that recovery process, because that Zone 4, that higher cardio, can really disrupt your recovery. So how much walking is enough? Well, ACSM, the American College of Sports Medicine, their general guideline is to accumulate 150 minutes of walking each week. When I do my calculations, that's roughly 5,000 daily steps or a 30-minute dedicated walk. So if you are new, that is absolutely where you should start, and you will see results from it. If you've been walking for a while, increasing your daily steps to maybe 8 or 10,000 steps a day, you'll see more results from it. You could also add a weighted vest maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Again, don't overcomplicate it. Maybe just adding more steps would be advantageous for you. And if you like, this is only if you like running, you can do any mix. You could do 75 minutes of running mixed with some walking. It is completely up to you and what you enjoy. But really aim for at least 150 minutes a week or 5,000 daily steps. And to count your daily steps, you do not have to have a fit watch. I have a $5 pedometer that I just clip right on, and it's a goal for me to get between 8 and 10,000 steps a day. Of course, you want to fit your walk in whenever is convenient for you, but a morning walk in that sunshine and vitamin D is so good for your circadian rhythm, for mental clarity, for energy production, for basically setting up your day. So for me, here's how I do it. After I've gotten the kids off to school, before I sit down at my computer, I do fitness a living, but I sit down at my computer a lot. Before I sit down, I am doing a 15-minute walk, hopefully in the sunshine. I live in the Midwest, so it just kind of depends on the day. Sometimes I am bundling up, and sometimes it's hot and humid, but hopefully in the sunshine. If you homeschool, take the kids with you. If you work in an office, park your car, walk around the parking lot for 15 minutes before you sit down. That morning sunshine, which usually, before 10 a.m. is going to be so good for your body. Boost your mood, reduce your stress. Again, that circadian rhythm improves your mental focus, and then it supports that vitamin D production when you're out in those outdoor elements. So now we know how many minutes or how many steps we should be walking. Just to recap, 150 minutes each week if you're newer to walking. If you've been walking, increase those daily steps. You could even add a weighted vest once or twice a week. Again, not overcomplicating it, just making sure that you're getting in those daily steps. But as with anything, as you get more conditioned, just like in strength training, as you get more conditioned in strength training, you need to maybe add heavier dumbbells. You need to use progressive overload and change it up because your body's getting more conditioned, which is a really good thing, right? You're progressing, you're pushing your fitness ceiling, but as your body becomes more conditioned, you might need to do a little bit more, which is why I said start with those 5,000 steps, aim for 10,000 steps, maybe more, maybe adding a weighted vest, maybe adding some hills, maybe a slight incline, say you're inside on your walking pad or your treadmill, maybe adding an incline, and then that weighted vest, it will make you huff and puff. It will make you huff and puff. So whether you walk with a weighted vest or without a weighted vest, remember, both are great for bone density, but adding that weighted vest, it will add some intensity. And if you're adding a weighted vest, you don't have to do it every time, maybe just 2 or 3 times a week. So here is why walking can be more effective than HIIT. And it all comes down to your personal preference, how you can remain consistent and what you enjoy doing, and listening to the feedback of your body. So over time, say you're doing daily HIIT sessions or 4 or 5 HIIT sessions a week. This is where I was several years ago when I was thinking high cardio was the only way I could get there. But what it was doing to me, it was putting me in a chronic state of fight or flight. My cortisol levels were chronically high. And then again, I was just completely burned out. But here's what happens when you do daily HIIT sessions without adequate rest. Well, it leads to overtraining. It leads to increased cortisol levels that a lot of times can stay chronically high, again, if you don't get that adequate recovery. And cortisol is associated with fat retention. So it could take some trial and error. That's how I started. I swapped every HIIT workout for walking, and for me, I was fascinated by the results. I lost 7 inches within 4 weeks. And then I started loving exercise again. So it was really beneficial for me. But let's look at the research. So over time, walking will actually burn more energy or more calories. While HIIT burns a lot of calories in a short period of time, walking, especially when done consistently and over extended periods like a 45 or 60-minute walk, can result in significant caloric burn over time. So you're gonna probably burn more energy. For many people, the total calories burned during regular, longer walking sessions can surpass what they'd burn in these shorter, more intense HIIT workouts, especially when walking is combined with other daily activities. So instead of always thinking about your workout as this 30-minute workout, getting in that daily movement and those daily steps combined throughout the day, not putting all of your pressure on that one 20 or 30-minute workout. Back when we were talking about zone 2 cardio, this is your fat burning zone. When you exercise at a lower intensity, a higher percentage of the calories burned come from fat. While HIIT also burns fat, it primarily relies on glycogen stores, which are carbohydrates, for energy due to its high intensity. Now, appetite control. I couldn't find a ton of research on this, so it's a little bit anecdotal in what I've seen over the last 20 years, but some studies suggest that intense exercise like HIIT can increase appetite. Walking, being less intense, may not stimulate the appetite as much. And again, I find this to be highly individualized. It does for some and it doesn't for others. Walking is good for mental health and stress reduction, particularly when it is done outdoors. I was working with my son's counseling office, and one of the counselors there told me about this study. They studied 75,000 participants, and this is a huge study when you've got 75,000 participants. And what they did was half of the group walked twice a week. The other half didn't walk. The group that walked twice a week saw a 50% reduction in anxiety and depression by just walking twice a week. So walking cannot be underrated when it comes to your mental health and your stress reduction. I know for me, I look forward to my walks, especially after like a longer day of work. Oh, that walk at the end of the day, I just feel like it's a breath of fresh air before I'm off to pick up the kids and off to the races for the evening. So yes, walking alone can give you the results that you're seeking. It can provide that fat loss. It can provide a lot of results. But if you are over the age of 30, you must add strength training in addition to that walking. And here's why. After the age of 30, we are steadily losing lean tissue, muscle mass. We are losing it 3 to 8% each decade to be exact. So strength training is gonna boost your metabolism because it's naturally declining as we lose muscle. So it's gonna boost that metabolism. It's gonna preserve your muscle, which is so important as we age. It's gonna transform your body composition. And when I'm talking about body composition, I'm not only talking about the fat loss that walking provides, but the increase in muscle. And what that does overall is it reduces size because muscle is smaller and more dense than fat. So it improves your body composition among all the other wonderful, wonderful things. So walking accelerates fat loss and fills in all the gaps that strength training alone can't do, while strength training boosts your metabolism, betters your body composition, and preserves your muscle. There was a study where they studied a group that did strength training alone, a group that did aerobic training. And in the study, the way that they did aerobic training is walking, but the way they did aerobic training was ellipticals and treadmills. Because when you're doing a research study, if you think about it, that is much easier to calculate as opposed to somebody walking outdoors, but somebody indoors on a piece of equipment. So that is what they used for aerobic training, was the treadmill and the elliptical. And then they had a group that did both the strength training and the aerobic training. And by far, the group that did strength training and aerobic training together saw significantly more results than the group that did aerobic training or walking all by itself. They didn't give an exact percentage on the increase, but significant difference in the group that did strength training and walking as opposed to walking alone. So I hope that answers all of your questions about walking. Overall, don't overcomplicate it. Get in your daily steps, and if you add in that strength training, and when I say strength training, it doesn't mean you have to do 5 or 6 sessions a week. I'm talking about 3 30-minute sessions a week. You add that in, and you will get to your goals that much faster.